This is my true story. I buried my son 18 years ago. Every Sunday for the past 18 years, I have stood at his grave. Rain, snow, blazing heat. It never mattered. His phone number stayed in my contacts because deleting it felt like losing him all over again. Then, on the night of October 8th, at exactly 3:12 a.m., my phone rang. His name lit up the screen exactly the way it used to when he was alive. I answered with hands that would not stop shaking. A voice, scared and confused, whispered, "Dad, where am I?" It was him. My dead son was calling me, terrified, asking why nothing made sense. If you're watching this story, please subscribe to the channel, like button, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. 18 years ago, I buried my son beneath a large maple tree at Willow Brook Cemetery just outside Richmond, Virginia. His name is carved into gray stone. Benjamin James Carter, born March 22nd, 1988, died August 14th, 2007, 19 years old. The funeral lasted 35 minutes. Maybe 25 people came. His mother, Laura, stood beside me but would not look at the casket. She stared at the ground the entire time while her sister held her up. Ben's friends came, young kids with red eyes who shuffled their feet and mumbled condolences. Within a year, most of them stopped calling. Within 2 years, none of them ever said his name again. That is how death works. People have to move on. I never could. The accident happened on a rainy Tuesday night. He was driving home from his evening class at the community college when a drunk driver ran a stop sign and hit him on the driver's side. The impact killed him instantly. That is what the police told me. No suffering, no pain, just gone. I got the call at 11:09 p.m. I remember the exact time because I was watching the late baseball game and looked at the clock the second the phone rang. The officer said there had been an accident and I needed to come to St. Mary's Medical Center in Richmond immediately. I knew. Parents always know. I drove 95 miles an hour the whole way. I did not care if I crashed. When I arrived, they took me to a private room. That is when I knew for certain. They only use those rooms for the worst news. They let me see him. His face was untouched. He looked asleep, peaceful. I touched his hand and it was still warm. I kept thinking he would wake up any second. I stood there for almost 3 hours waiting for his chest to move. It never did. Laura arrived later and screamed so loud security came running. She collapsed on the floor. They had to sedate her. She could not go to the identification. She could not sign any papers. I did everything alone. I picked the coffin. I chose the plot under the maple tree. I wrote the obituary. I selected the flowers. I did it all in a fog, moving through motions I did not understand. The funeral was worse than the hospital. At the hospital, I could still pretend there had been a terrible mistake. But at the cemetery, they lowered him into the ground. I heard the machinery. I heard the coffin settle into the earth. People threw flowers onto the lid. Laura threw a letter she had written. I threw nothing. I just watched. After everyone left, I stayed. The workers filled the grave, shovel by shovel. I watched every minute. I needed to see it finished. I needed to know he was really down there. When they packed the last of the dirt, I finally walked away. For 18 years, I visited every Sunday. Rain, snow, heat. It did not matter. I brought flowers. I talked to him. I told him about my week. I told him things I could not tell anyone else. Laura stopped coming after the first year. She said it hurt too much. We divorced 3 years after he died. Grief killed our marriage. She remarried. She had another child. She built a new life. I could not. I kept his room exactly the way he left it. His clothes still hung in the closet. His books sat on the shelf. His phone number stayed in my contacts. I paid the bill every month. $32 a month to keep his number alive in my phone even though it had been disconnected. People said I needed therapy. People said I needed to let go. I did not care what people said. You do not get over losing a child. You just learn to walk carefully around the hole they leave behind. You learn to function. You go to work. You pay bills. You pretend you are fine, but you are never fine. Every birthday that passes without them is torture. Every Christmas, every milestone they will never reach. I watched his friends graduate college, get married, have children. My son stayed 19 forever, frozen in time. A boy who never got to become a man. I accepted it. I had no choice. Dead is final. Until the night of October 8th when his number lit up my phone at 3:12 in the morning. I was asleep. The sound jolted me awake. I grabbed the phone off my nightstand and looked at the screen. The name said Benjamin, his contact photo from his senior year smiling back at me. My heart hammered in my chest. The room felt ice cold. My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped it. This could not be real. The number had been disconnected for 17 years. I had tried calling it hundreds of times over the years and always got the same recorded message saying the number was no longer in service. But now it was calling me. The phone kept ringing. 4 rings. 5 rings. I could not move. My thumb hovered over the answer button, but I could not press it. What if it was a mistake? What if it was some sick prank? On the 6th ring, something inside me broke. I pressed the button. I lifted the phone to my ear. For 3 seconds, I heard nothing. Just silence. Dead air. Then I heard breathing. Slow, steady, human breathing. Someone was there. My throat closed up. I tried to say hello, but no sound came out. Then a voice spoke. Dad. One word. Quiet. Confused. Scared. My son's voice. I know my son's voice. I heard it every day for 19 years. I heard it in my dreams for 18 years after. This was him. Not a recording. Not a memory. Him. Actually speaking to me through the phone. My vision blurred. Tears ran down my face. I still could not speak. Dad. Are you there? He said again. His voice cracked. He sounded desperate. Lost. I forced air into my lungs. Benjamin. I whispered. My voice did not sound like my own. Silence on the other end. Long silence. Then, yeah, it's me. Where am I? His question made no sense. What do you mean? I asked. My voice was shaking. Where are you calling from? More silence. I heard him breathing faster now. Panicked breathing. I don't know, he said. I don't know where I am. Nothing makes sense. Dad, something's wrong. Everything feels wrong. I stood up from my bed. I turned on the light. I needed to think clearly, but my brain was not working. My son was dead. I buried him. I watched them put him in the ground. This could not be happening. Benjamin, what's going on? I asked. Where have you been? I did not know what else to say. What do you ask someone who has been dead for 18 years? He made a sound like a sob. I don't know. He said, I remember the accident. I remember the truck hitting me. I remember dying. I felt it. Dad, I died. But then I woke up and everything was different. I look different. I feel different. I'm in some place I don't recognize and people walk right past me like I'm not even here. I've been trying to figure out what happened, but nothing makes sense. I found a phone. Your number was the only one I remembered. My legs gave out. I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. My son remembered dying. He knew he died, but he was talking to me. How was he talking to me? Are you hurt? I asked. Stupid question. He was dead, but he was calling me. Nothing made sense. No, he said. I'm not hurt, but I'm scared. I don't understand what's happening. Can you come get me? Please, his voice broke on the word please. He sounded like a little boy again, lost and afraid and needing his father. Tell me where you are, I said. Give me an address. I'll come right now. I don't know the address, he said. I'm in a building. It's dark. There are apartments. I'll try to find something with an address on it. I heard movement through the phone. Footsteps. A door opening. Then the line went dead. Just like that. Gone. I pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it. The call timer showed 9 minutes and 51 seconds. I immediately called back. The recording played. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. I tried again. Same message. I tried 18 more times. Same message every time. My dead son had just called me asking for help. And then he vanished. I did not sleep the rest of that night. I sat on my bed staring at my phone until the sun came up. I kept replaying the call in my head. His voice. The way he said dad. The fear in his tone. The confusion. It was not a recording. Recordings do not hesitate. Recordings do not ask questions. Recordings do not sound lost. This was a real conversation with a real person who knew things only my son would know. At 6:30 a.m., I drove to the cemetery. I needed to see the grave. I needed proof he was still there. The morning was cold and gray. Fog hung low over the headstones. I parked and walked to the maple tree. His grave looked exactly the same as it always did. Gray stone. Fresh flowers from my visit 4 days earlier. The ground was solid and undisturbed. No one had dug him up. I knelt down and put my hand on the grass. It was cold and wet with dew. Benjamin, I whispered. Are you down there, stupid question? Of course he was. I buried him myself. But then who called me? I stayed at the grave for an hour. I did not pray. I am not religious. I just sat there trying to make sense of what happened. Maybe I dreamed it. Maybe grief had finally broken my mind after 18 years. Maybe I was going crazy. But when I checked my phone, the call was there in my history. Benjamin. 3:12 a.m. 9 minutes and 51 seconds. Not a dream, not a hallucination. Real. I took a screenshot of the call log. I needed evidence. I needed proof that I was not losing my mind. Then I drove home and waited. I did not know what else to do. 3 nights passed. Nothing. No calls, no messages. I barely ate. I barely slept. I kept my phone in my hand every second. I was afraid to shower because I might miss a call. I was afraid to leave the house. My neighbor knocked, asking if I was okay. I did not answer. I just sat in my living room staring at my phone, willing it to ring. On the 4th night at 2:58 a.m., it rang again. His name. His picture. I answered before the first ring finished. Benjamin. I said immediately. Dad. His voice came through. He sounded worse than before. Tired. Desperate. I found something. I found an address. My heart jumped. Where I grabbed a pen and paper off the coffee table. What's the address? He read it slowly. 1812 Oakwood Lane. Apartment 12, Charleston, West Virginia. I wrote it down. My hand was shaking so hard I could barely read my own writing. That's 2 states away. I said, What are you doing there? He made a sound between a laugh and a sob. I don't know, he said. I don't know how I got here. I don't know why I'm here, but Dad, something's really wrong. I went outside today and people looked right through me. A woman walked into me. Actually into me like I wasn't solid. I think I'm dead. I think I'm a ghost or something. You're not a ghost, I said. I did not know if that was true, but I said it anyway. You're talking to me. Ghosts can't use phones. He laughed, but it sounded broken. Then what am I? He asked. I look in mirrors and I see someone older. I see a face that's almost mine, but not quite. I'm so confused. I'm so tired. Can you please come get me? I don't want to be here anymore. My throat tightened. I'm coming, I said. Stay where you are. I'm leaving right now. I'll be there in 7 hours. Can you wait 7 hours? Silence. Then, I'll try. Dad, I'm scared. Those 3 words destroyed me. I know. I said, I'm scared too, but I'm coming. I promise. The line went dead again. I did not even try calling back. I knew it would not work. Instead, I stood up and started packing. I threw clothes in a bag. I grabbed my wallet and keys. I did not tell anyone where I was going. I did not call work. I just got in my car and started driving toward West Virginia. My son was alive somewhere. Impossible. Insane. But he called me twice. He gave me an address. I had to find out what was happening. Even if it destroyed me, even if I was chasing a ghost, I had to know. Before I left, I did something that would sound insane to anyone else. I called the phone company. It was 400 AM, but their customer service line was 24 hours. A woman answered with a tired voice. I gave her my account information. Then I asked her to pull records for my son's old number. She asked why. I told her I had been receiving calls from it. She put me on hold. 5 minutes passed. 10 minutes. When she came back, her voice had changed. Confused. Sir, according to our system, that number has been inactive for 17 years. It was disconnected in February 2008. There is no activity on it at all. No calls in or out. No data usage. Nothing. That's impossible. I said, I received 2 calls from that number in the past 4 days. Check again. She put me on hold again. This time, 15 minutes passed. A different voice came on. A supervisor, male, professional, Mr. Carter. I have reviewed the account personally. The number you are asking about has been deactivated for nearly 2 decades. Our system shows no recent activity whatsoever. Is it possible you received calls from a different number that displayed incorrectly? I felt anger rising in my chest. I know my son's number, I said. I have had it saved for 18 years. I am looking at my call log right now. 2 calls, both from his number, both lasting several minutes. The supervisor's tone became careful, gentle. The way people talk to someone they think is unstable. Sir, sometimes grief can cause us to see things that are not there. Perhaps you should speak with someone, a counselor or therapist. We have resources we can recommend. I hung up on him. I did not need a therapist. I needed answers. I took more screenshots of my call log. I recorded a video of my phone showing the calls with the date and timestamps. I needed evidence. I needed proof that I was not crazy. Then I got in my car and started the 7-hour drive to West Virginia. I drove straight through. No stops except for gas. I bought coffee at a truck stop and kept driving. My mind raced the entire time. What would I find at that address? Would Benjamin be there? Would it be abandoned? Would there be nothing at all? Part of me expected to arrive and find an empty lot. But I had to go. I had to see. The address was burned into my brain, 1812 Oakwood Lane, apartment 12, Charleston, West Virginia. I punched it into my GPS. 7 hours and 9 minutes. I did it in 6 hours and 45 minutes. I arrived at 11:32 a.m. The address led me to an old 4-story brick apartment building on the east side of town. Windows on the first floor were boarded up. The front door had a chain and padlock. A faded orange sign hung on the fence. Condemned. No trespassing. Scheduled for demolition. My stomach dropped. This building was abandoned. Empty. How could Benjamin be here? I parked across the street and stared at it for 10 minutes. This had to be wrong. Maybe I wrote down the address incorrectly. But when I checked my notes, it was right. I got out of my car and walked closer. The fence had holes cut in multiple places, easy to get through. I looked around. The street was quiet. No one watching. I slipped through a hole in the fence and approached the building. The front door was locked with the chain, but around the side I found a door with a broken lock. I pushed it open. It creaked loud enough to make me freeze. I waited. No sound from inside. I stepped through into darkness. The smell hit me immediately: mold, rot, stale air. I turned on my phone's flashlight and looked around. I was in a hallway. Peeling wallpaper, stained carpet, graffiti on the walls, apartment doors hanging open on both sides. I walked slowly down the hall, checking the numbers. Apartment 1, apartment 2, all of them empty. Trash on the floors, broken furniture, evidence of squatters and drug users. This place had been abandoned for years. I reached the stairwell and climbed to the second floor. More of the same decay, emptiness, silence. I checked every apartment. Nothing. No sign anyone had been here recently. I climbed to the third floor. My hands were shaking. My heart pounded. And then I found apartment 12 at the end of the third floor hallway. Unlike every other door in the building, this one was closed, fully closed, no damage. The brass number 12 hung straight and looked polished, clean. I stood in front of it for a full minute. Every instinct told me to leave, to run, but I came here for answers. I reached out and turned the handle. It was not locked. The door opened smoothly, silently. No creaking. I pushed it open and stepped inside. Then I stopped breathing. The apartment was perfect. Completely perfect. While every other unit in the building was destroyed and rotting, this one looked like someone lived here. The walls were painted soft gray, clean, no peeling, no water damage. The carpet was beige and spotless. I could see fresh vacuum lines in it. The air did not smell like mold. It smelled like soap and coffee. I walked further inside and my legs felt weak. The living room had furniture, a dark blue couch, a coffee table, a television on a stand. Everything neat and arranged like a normal apartment, like someone's home. On the walls were photographs. I walked closer and my vision blurred. They were photos of my family, me, Laura, and Benjamin when he was a child. His first day of kindergarten, his 10th birthday party, Christmas morning when he was 12, a photo from his high school graduation. I had copies of these exact photos at my house. How were they here? Who put them here? I touched the frame with shaking fingers. The glass was clean, no dust. These had been hung recently. I moved to the next wall. More photos, but these were different. These showed Benjamin older, in his 20s, in his 30s. Photos that never existed because he died at 19. In one photo, he stood in front of a college building wearing a graduation gown. In another, he sat at a restaurant with friends I did not recognize. Another showed him standing in front of this exact apartment building, smiling, alive, looking maybe 38 years old. I pulled out my phone and took pictures of everything. My hands shook so badly the photos came out blurry. I had to steady myself against the wall. This was not possible. None of this was possible. I walked into the kitchen. Clean dishes in the drying rack. A coffee mug on the counter with brown liquid still in the bottom. I touched it, still slightly warm. I opened the refrigerator. Food inside milk. Eggs. Leftovers in containers. I checked the date on the milk. It expired in 6 days. Fresh. Recent. Someone was living here in a condemned building scheduled for demolition. I closed the refrigerator and saw a note held to the door by a magnet. My heart stopped. The note was handwritten on lined paper. I recognized the handwriting immediately, Benjamin's handwriting. The same messy scrawl he had had since middle school. I pulled the note off the fridge and read it. Dad, if you're reading this, I don't know what's happening to me. I woke up here 3 weeks ago with no memory of how I got here. I have ID that says my name is Matthew James Reed. I'm 38 years old. I work at a factory. I have an apartment and a life I don't remember living. But it's not my life. I remember being Benjamin. I remember you. I remember Mom. I remember dying in that accident. I felt the impact. I felt everything stop. Then I woke up here as someone else. 18 years passed, but I don't remember any of it. The people here know me as Matthew. They've known me for years, but I'm not Matthew. I'm Benjamin, your son. I think I'm supposed to be dead. I think something went wrong. I don't belong here. Please help me figure out what happened. I read the note 4 times. My vision kept blurring with tears. I folded it carefully and put it in my pocket. Then I walked to the bedroom. The door was half open. I pushed it all the way and looked inside. A bed neatly made, a dresser with more photos on top, a closet with clothes hanging, men's clothes, size large. Benjamin wore size large. On the nightstand sat a wallet and a set of keys. I picked up the wallet and opened it. Inside was a driver's license. The photo showed a man who looked like an older version of my son, same eyes, same nose, same slight scar on his chin from when he fell off his bike at age 7. But the name on the license said Matthew James Reed. Date of birth, March 22nd, 1988. The same birthday as Benjamin. Address 1812 Oakwood Lane, Apartment 12, Charleston, West Virginia. I sat down on the bed because my legs would not hold me anymore. My son died 18 years ago. I buried him. But according to this license, he had been living here under a different name, living a life he did not remember. How was that possible? I pulled out my phone to call the police. Then I stopped. What would I tell them? My dead son is alive but does not remember being alive. They would think I was insane. I put the phone away. I needed more answers first. I needed to understand what happened before I involved anyone else. I stayed in that apartment for 2 hours, searching through everything. I found bills addressed to Matthew Reed, going back 5 years, electric bills, water bills, pay stubs from Charleston Steel and Supply, all showing regular payments, a normal life. In a drawer, I found a lease agreement signed 3 years ago, Matthew Reed's signature, but it looked almost identical to how Benjamin used to sign his name. In another drawer, I found medical records, hospital visits, prescriptions, a file from a neurologist. I sat on the couch and read through every page. The medical records told an impossible story. According to the documents, Matthew Reed had been admitted to St. Mary's Medical Center on August 14, 2007, the same hospital where my son died, the same date, the same night. He had been in a severe car accident, multiple injuries, head trauma. He was in a coma for 6 weeks. When he woke up, he had complete amnesia. No memory of his life before the accident. No memory of his identity. No ID was found at the scene. He became a John Doe. The hospital kept him for 3 weeks while they searched for family. No one ever came forward. No one claimed him. I read the words over and over. August 14th, 2007. The night Benjamin died. The same hospital. The same type of accident. My hands started shaking. I kept reading. After he was released from the hospital, social services helped him. They gave him temporary housing. They helped him get ID under the name he chose for himself, Matthew Reed. He could not remember his real name, so he picked a new one. He got a job. He built a life from nothing. A life as a stranger to himself. The records showed years of therapy, depression, anxiety, trauma from not knowing who he was. But he survived. He kept going. I found a business card clipped to the medical file. Doctor Emily Harper, neurologist, St. Mary's Medical Center. I called the number immediately. A receptionist answered. I asked to speak with Dr. Harper. She asked what it was regarding. I said I needed to ask her about a patient named Matthew Reed, that it was urgent, about a case from 18 years ago. The receptionist put me on hold. 5 minutes later, a woman's voice came on the line. This is Dr. Harper. Who am I speaking with? My name is Dennis Carter. I said, my son Benjamin died in a car accident on August 14th, 2007 at St. Mary's Medical Center. You treated a John Doe the same night. Same accident. He woke up with amnesia and became Matthew Reed. I need to know what happened that night. Silence on the other end. Long silence. Mr. Carter, she finally said. Her voice was careful, uncertain. I remember that case. It was unusual. We had two young men brought in from the same intersection within minutes of each other. Both were in critical condition. Both had severe head trauma. One did not make it. The other survived but lost all memory of his identity. Was there any chance they could have been confused? I asked. My voice was shaking. Could their charts have been mixed up? Could there have been a mistake about which one died? Another long silence. Mr. Carter, are you suggesting that we misidentified your son's body? Her tone had shifted. Defensive now. I'm suggesting something went wrong that night. I said, I'm suggesting the boy who survived might actually be my son. I heard papers rustling on her end. That would be impossible, she said. We use fingerprints, dental records when available. We do not make those kinds of mistakes. But you did not have fingerprints for the John Doe. Did you? I said. He had no ID, no wallet, nothing. You never knew who he really was. More silence. Mr. Carter, I understand you are grieving, but what you are suggesting is simply not possible. Your son was identified by you personally at the hospital. You saw him. You confirmed his identity. She was right. I had identified Benjamin's body. I saw his face. But what if I had been wrong? What if in my shock and grief I had made a mistake? What if the boy in that bed was not Benjamin? Can you pull the records from that night? I asked. Please. I need to see everything. Admission times, treatment notes, everything about both patients. Doctor, Harper sighed. Mr. Carter, those records are 18 years old. I would need permission to release them. I would need proper authorization. This is not something I can just hand over. My frustration boiled over. My son called me, I said, twice, from a disconnected phone number. He gave me an address. I'm sitting in his apartment right now looking at his medical files. Something happened that night. Something no one understood. Please help me figure out what it was. The line went quiet for so long I thought she had hung up. Then she spoke again, her voice softer now. Give me until tomorrow, she said. I'll pull everything I can find. But Mr. Carter, I need you to prepare yourself for the possibility that you won't like what you find. Sometimes grief makes us see things that are not there. I thanked her and ended the call. Then I sat in the silent apartment surrounded by evidence of an impossible life. My dead son had lived here under a different name with no memory of being my son. And somehow 3 weeks ago he started to remember. I spent the night in that apartment. I could not leave. I sat on the couch waiting for Benjamin to walk through the door, waiting for the phone to ring. Neither happened. At some point I fell asleep. When I woke up, sunlight streamed through the windows. It was 9:27 a.m. My phone had 7 missed calls, all from Dr. Harper. I called her back immediately. She answered on the first ring. Mr. Carter, I found something, she said. Her voice sounded different, shaken. "Can you come to the hospital? I need to show you in person." I drove to St. Mary's Medical Center, the same place I had gone 18 years ago when they told me Benjamin was dead. The same building, the same parking lot. Walking through those doors felt like stepping back in time. Doctor. Harper met me in the lobby. She was in her late 50s with gray hair pulled back tight. She looked tired, like she had not slept either. "Follow me," she said. She did not make small talk. She led me to a small office on the third floor and closed the door behind us. On her desk were several thick folders and a laptop computer. "I spent all night going through archives," she said. She sat down and gestured for me to sit across from her. "What I found does not make sense, but you need to see it." She opened the first folder and spread papers across the desk. On August 14th, 2007, 2 patients were admitted to this hospital from car accidents at the same intersection. Patient A arrived at 11:14 p.m. Critical condition, massive head trauma, multiple internal injuries. He was pronounced dead at 11:48 p.m. "You identified this patient as your son, Benjamin Carter." She slid a document toward me, a death certificate. "Benjamin James Carter." I had seen this before. I had a copy at home in a box I could not bring myself to open. Patient B arrived at 11:21 p.m. "Doctor," Harper continued, 7 minutes after patient A, also critical condition, also severe head trauma. But he was stable enough for surgery. We operated for 8 hours. He survived but fell into a coma. When he woke up 6 weeks later, he had complete retrograde amnesia. No memory of anything before the accident. No ID was found. He became our John Doe. She opened another folder. Medical charts, photos. "This is Matthew Reed, the John Doe who survived." She turned her laptop toward me and opened a file. Side-by-side photos appeared on the screen. On the left was a hospital photo from August 2007. A young man in a hospital bed. Bandaged, bruised, unconscious. On the right was a driver's license photo. Matthew Reed, taken years later. The same man, older. I stared at both images. My breath caught in my throat. "That's my son," I whispered. The face on the left looked like Benjamin. The eyes, the shape of his jaw, features I would know anywhere. "That's him. That's Benjamin." "Doctor." Harper leaned forward. "Mr. Carter, here is what does not make sense." I pulled the original intake records from that night. Both patients came from the same accident scene. Both were driving vehicles involved in the same collision. But according to the police report, there was only one car accident that night at that intersection. A truck ran a stop sign and hit a sedan. One driver in the sedan. One driver in the truck. 2 people total. But we treated 2 patients with nearly identical injuries from the same location at almost the same time. I could not process what she was saying. "How is that possible?" I asked. She shook her head. "It is not possible unless someone made an error in the reports. Unless there were actually 2 separate accidents minutes apart that got recorded as one. Or unless..." She trailed off. "Unless what I demanded." She looked uncomfortable. "Unless the patients were somehow confused during intake. It was a chaotic night. Multiple trauma cases, overwhelmed staff. If 2 young men with similar injuries arrived minutes apart. If their charts were not properly labeled immediately. If someone made assumptions about which patient was which." "You're saying you might have declared the wrong person dead," I said flatly. The words felt like knives coming out of my mouth. "Doctor." Harper's face went pale. "I am saying there may have been confusion about patient identification during a critical moment. I am saying mistakes, while rare, can happen. I am saying the man who survived as John Doe has the same blood type as your son. The same approximate age, similar physical characteristics, and according to intake photos, similar facial features despite the trauma. She pulled out another document. This is the original police report from that night. It lists only one victim in the sedan, Benjamin James Carter, age 19. But it also notes that identification was found at the scene in the vehicle. I identified his body, I said. My voice sounded hollow. Doctor. Harper nodded slowly. You identified a body that had severe facial trauma. In a moment of extreme emotional distress in the middle of the night, after being told your son was dead. Mr. Carter. The human brain under that kind of stress does not always see clearly, and we do not always question what we are told when it confirms our worst fears. I stood up. The room felt too small, too hot. So you're telling me I buried the wrong person, that I have been visiting the wrong grave for 18 years, that my son has been alive this entire time and I did not know. Doctor. Harper stood too. I am telling you there are irregularities in the records that warrant investigation. I am telling you that Matthew Reed may need to be DNA tested. I am telling you that what happened that night may not be as clear as everyone thought. She handed me a piece of paper with an address written on it. This is where Matthew Reed works. Charleston Steel and Supply. Second shift. He should be there tonight starting at 10 p.m. But Mr. Carter, you need to be prepared. If this man is your son, he does not remember being your son. He has lived an entire adult life as someone else. Approaching him could be traumatic for both of you. I took the paper. My hands were numb. If there is even a chance he is Benjamin, I have to see him, I said. I have to know. Doctor. Harper nodded. I understand. I have arranged for a DNA test kit. If you can get a sample, a cheek swab, or even a hair with the root attached, we can run it against your DNA. We will know for certain within 48 hours. She handed me a small plastic bag with a sterile swab inside. I put it in my pocket. One more thing, she said as I turned to leave. If this is your son, if Matthew Reed is actually Benjamin Carter, you need to understand that he is not the same person you lost. 18 years of living as someone else changes a person. Even if the DNA matches, the boy you knew is gone. I went to Charleston Steel and Supply that night at 9:50 p.m. The factory sat on the edge of town surrounded by empty fields. A large metal building with trucks parked outside. Bright lights illuminated the parking lot. I sat in my car watching workers arrive for the second shift. Men in jeans and work boots carrying lunchboxes. I did not know what Matthew Reed looked like now. I only had the driver's license photo and the pictures from the apartment. Would I recognize him? Would I see my son in a stranger's face? At 9:58 p.m., a silver Honda pulled into the lot and parked 4 spaces from me. A man got out, tall, maybe 6'1", wearing jeans and a brown jacket. He grabbed a backpack from the passenger seat and started walking toward the factory entrance. I could not see his face clearly in the dark, but something about the way he moved made my chest tighten. The walk, the slight slouch in his shoulders. Benjamin used to walk exactly like that. I got out of my car and followed him at a distance. He reached the entrance and stepped under the bright lights above the door. I stopped walking. My legs would not move. I could see him clearly now. His face, it was older. Lines around the eyes. Heavier jaw. But it was Benjamin's face. 18 years older. Exactly how he would look if he had lived. The same nose, the same shape of his mouth. Even the way he ran his hand through his hair before opening the door. Benjamin did that exact gesture 1,000 times. I watched him disappear inside the building. Then I stood in that parking lot crying. Not quiet tears, loud sobbing that I could not control. My son was alive. He was 38 years old and alive and working the second shift at a factory. I waited in my car for 3 hours trying to decide what to do. I could not just walk up to him. What would I say? Hi, I'm your father. You died 18 years ago, but you are actually alive. You just do not remember. He would think I was insane. He would call security. I needed proof first. I needed the DNA test. At 2:10 a.m., workers started coming out for their break. Groups of men smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee from thermoses. Then I saw him. Matthew. Benjamin. He came out alone and walked to the far edge of the parking lot away from the others. He leaned against the fence and stared up at the sky. I got out of my car and walked toward him. My heart hammered so hard I thought I might pass out. Each step felt impossible. When I was 20 feet away, he noticed me. He turned and looked at me directly. Our eyes met. For 3 seconds, we just stared at each other. I saw confusion cross his face. Then something else. Recognition, maybe. Or familiarity he could not explain. "Can I help you?" he asked. His voice. Benjamin's voice, but deeper, rougher from years of living. I opened my mouth, but no words came out. "Are you okay?" he asked. He took a step toward me. Concern on his face. "You look like you've seen a ghost." The irony of those words nearly broke me. "I'm sorry," I managed to say. You look like someone I used to know." He studied my face more carefully now. His expression changed, uncertain, troubled. "That's weird," he said slowly. "You look familiar too. Have we met before?" I shook my head. "I don't think so. I'm not from around here." But I moved closer, close enough to see the scar on his chin, the small scar from the bike accident when he was 7. It was there, faded but visible. "What's your name?" I asked. "Matthew," he said. Then he hesitated. "Matthew Reed." I almost said Dennis. Almost told him the truth. But I stopped myself. "John." I lied. "John Williams." He nodded, but kept staring at me like he was trying to solve a puzzle. "This is going to sound crazy," he said, "but I feel like I know you. Like I've seen you before. Maybe in a dream or something." My throat closed up. "Maybe," I whispered. He laughed nervously. "Sorry. I know that sounds insane. I've had weird dreams lately. Really vivid ones about a life I don't remember living." "What kind of dreams?" I asked. He looked uncomfortable. "It's stupid. Just stress, probably. My therapist says it's my brain trying to fill in the gaps from my amnesia. I was in an accident a long time ago. Lost all my memories from before. Sometimes my mind makes up stories to explain the missing pieces." He rubbed his face tiredly. "Lately, the dreams have been intense. I see people I don't recognize but feel like family. I see places I've never been but feel like home. And there's this one man who keeps appearing. Older guy. Always sad. Always watching me. I think it's supposed to be my father. But I don't remember having a father. I could not breathe. He was dreaming about me." "What does he look like?" I asked. "In the dreams." The father Matthew looked at me for a long moment. His eyes narrowed slightly. "Like you," he said quietly. "He looks exactly like you." The air between us felt electric, heavy. He took another step closer. "Who are you really?" he asked. "Why do I feel like I know you?" I wanted to tell him everything. I wanted to grab him and never let go. But I forced myself to stay calm. "I lost someone a long time ago," I said. "Someone who looked like you. I thought I saw him in your face. I'm sorry for bothering you." I turned to walk away. I had to leave before I broke down completely. "Wait," Matthew called out. I stopped. "What was his name, the person you lost?" I looked back at him, at his face, my son's face. "Benjamin," I said. Matthew went very still. His expression changed. Shock. Fear. Something else I could not identify. That's impossible, he whispered. How did you know that name? My heart stopped. What do you mean? I asked. He looked shaken now. Pale. I've been having these dreams. In them people call me Benjamin. Not Matthew. Benjamin. I always wake up confused because that's not my name. But everyone in the dreams uses that name like it belongs to me. He pulled out his phone with trembling hands. 3 weeks ago I woke up and found this in my notes app. I don't remember writing it, but it's my handwriting. He turned the phone toward me. On the screen were 3 words written over and over: I am Benjamin. I am Benjamin. I am Benjamin. Written dozens of times, filling the entire screen. I thought I was losing my mind. Matthew said. His voice cracked. I thought the amnesia was making me crazy. But you just said that name. A stranger just said the name from my dreams. How is that possible? I pulled the DNA test kit from my pocket. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped it. I need to ask you something, I said. And I need you to trust me even though you don't know me. Will you let me take a DNA sample, just a cheek swab? It won't hurt. It'll take 10 seconds. Matthew stared at the kit, then at me. Why, he asked. What's going on? I looked into his eyes. Benjamin's eyes. Because I think you're my son. I said, I think you're Benjamin. And I think you've been alive this whole time. Matthew did not move for a long time. He just stared at me with an expression I could not read: fear, confusion, something that looked almost like hope. Your son is dead, he finally said. His voice was flat. Careful. You said you lost him. That means he's gone. I nodded. Tears ran down my face and I did not wipe them away. I buried him 18 years ago. I said, I watched them put him in the ground. I visited his grave every week for almost 2 decades. But 3 weeks ago, he called me twice from a phone number that has been disconnected for 17 years. He told me he did not understand what was happening. He gave me an address, your address. And when I got there, I found an apartment full of photos of my family, photos of you, and a note in my son's handwriting saying he did not know who he was anymore. Matthew took a step backward. His face had gone white. That's not possible, he said, but his voice shook. That's insane. I held up the DNA kit. Then prove me wrong. I said, take the test. If I'm crazy, it will come back negative, and you will never see me again. But if I'm right, if you're Benjamin, don't you want to know? Don't you want to finally understand who you are? His hand went to his mouth. He pressed his knuckles against his lips like he was trying to hold back words or screams. I died, he whispered. In my dreams, I remember dying. I remember the accident, the impact, everything going dark. I remember feeling my life end. So do I said. I remember getting the call that you were dead. I remember identifying your body at the hospital. I remember every second of your funeral. But what if we were both wrong? What if something happened that night that no one understood? Matthew closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were wet. If you're telling the truth, he said slowly. If I'm really your son, that means I lost 18 years. 18 years of life I should have had with you, with my real family. 18 years living as the wrong person. His voice broke. How do I come back from that? We figure it out together, I said. I stepped closer and held out the kit again. Please, let me take the sample. Let's find out the truth. He looked at the kit for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, he whispered. I opened the package with shaking hands. I pulled out the sterile swab. "Open your mouth," I said. He did. I gently swabbed the inside of his cheek for 10 seconds, like the instructions said. Then I sealed it in the plastic tube and put it in my pocket. "How long until we know?" he asked. 48 hours, I said. "A doctor at St. Mary's is running the test. She'll compare your DNA to mine." Matthew wrapped his arms around himself. "What do I do until then?" he asked. "How do I go to work and act normal when my entire reality might be a lie?" I did not have an answer. "Can I call you?" I asked. "Can I give you my number so we can talk?" He nodded and pulled out his phone. I gave him my number and he saved it. "What do I call you?" he asked. The question destroyed me. "Whatever feels right." I said, "John or Dennis or nothing at all, until we know for sure." He saved the contact as John. Then he looked at me with an expression of pure pain. "I need to tell you something," he said. "And I need you to understand. I'm not saying it to hurt you." "What is it?" I asked. He took a shaky breath. "If the test comes back positive, if I really am your son, I don't remember being him. I don't remember you. I've lived as Matthew Reed for 18 years. That's the only life I know. Even if the DNA says I'm Benjamin Carter, I don't know if I can become him again. I don't know if that person even exists anymore." The words felt like a punch to the chest. But he was right. Even if he was Benjamin, he was not the Benjamin I lost. That 19-year-old boy was gone forever. "I understand," I said. My voice barely worked. "I just need to know the truth. Whatever happens after, we'll deal with it." He nodded. Then he did something I did not expect. He reached out and touched my shoulder. Just for a second. "I'm sorry," he said, "for what you've been through, for what you lost. Whether I'm him or not, I'm sorry." Then he turned and walked back toward the factory. I watched him go. I stood in that parking lot until the sun came up. 2 days later, Dr. Harper called me. I was back in that apartment. I had been staying there waiting for the results. When my phone rang, I could not answer it for 3 rings. I was too terrified of what she might say. "Mr. Carter." "Doctor," Harper said when I finally answered. Her voice was strange, tight. "The results came back. I need you to sit down." I sat on the couch, the same couch where I had found the note. "Tell me," I said. She was quiet for a moment. "It's a match," she said. "Matthew Reed is your biological son. Benjamin is alive." I do not remember what I said to Dr. Harper after that. I think I thanked her. I think I asked her to send me the official results. Then I ended the call and sat in silence for an hour. My son was alive. The test proved it. Benjamin James Carter did not die on August 14th, 2007. Someone else did. A stranger was buried in his grave. My son had been living 2 states away under a different name for 18 years. And I had missed everything: his 20s, his 30s, 2 decades of his life gone. I would never get them back. He would never get them back. I called Matthew. He answered on the first ring. "It's positive," I said. My voice was hollow, empty. "The DNA test. You're Benjamin. You're my son." Silence on the other end. Long, terrible silence. Then I heard him crying. Not quiet tears. Deep broken sobs. "I don't know what to do," he said between breaths. "I don't know how to be him. I don't remember him." I cried too. We stayed on the phone crying together for 10 minutes. Neither of us speaking. Just breathing and crying and trying to process something that could not be processed. "Can I see you?" I finally asked. Can we meet somewhere and talk? He was quiet for a moment. Yeah, he said. Yeah, I need to see you. I need to try to understand this. We met at a diner 2 hours later. I got there first and sat in a booth by the window. When he walked in, I stood up without thinking. He saw me and stopped. We stared at each other across the restaurant. Then he walked over slowly and sat down across from me. Up close in the daylight, I could see Benjamin so clearly in his face. But I could also see the stranger he had become. The lines, the weathering, the life lived without me. I don't know where to start, he said. His voice was raw from crying. I've spent my entire adult life not knowing who I was. And now I know. But it doesn't feel real. It feels like something that happened to someone else. I nodded. I buried you, I said. I mourned you. I visited your grave every week. I kept your room exactly how you left it. And you were alive the whole time. He put his face in his hands. I'm so sorry, he said. I know that doesn't mean anything. I know sorry doesn't fix 18 years. But I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's not your fault, I said. None of this is your fault. Something went wrong that night. The hospital mixed things up. You woke up not knowing who you were, and they never figured it out. No one is to blame. But even as I said it, I felt anger at the hospital, at the police, at whoever made the mistake that stole 18 years from both of us. What do we do now? Matthew asked. How do we move forward from this? I did not have an answer. I don't know. I said honestly, you're my son. The DNA proves it. But you're also Matthew Reed. You have a life, a job, an identity. I can't ask you to give that up and become someone you don't remember being. He looked at me with wet eyes. But I want to try, he said. I want to know who I was. I want to know you. I want to understand the life I lost. Even if I can never fully remember it. I want to try. Those words gave me something I had not felt in 18 years, hope. Then we take it slow. I said, we spend time together. We talk. I tell you stories about who you were. You tell me about who you've become. We figure this out one day at a time. He reached across the table. His hand shook. I took it. His hand was bigger than I remembered. Rougher. But when I held it, I felt something I thought I would never feel again. My son's hand in mine. We sat in that diner for 4 hours. I told him about his childhood, his first words, his favorite toys, the time he broke his arm falling out of a tree, his graduation, his dreams of going to college. He listened to every word like he was hearing a story about a stranger. Maybe he was. But sometimes recognition flickered in his eyes. Small moments where something I said touched a memory buried deep. We exchanged phone numbers properly this time. Not as John Williams and Matthew Reed, as Dennis Carter and Benjamin Carter, father and son. Over the next 3 months, we met every week, sometimes at the diner, sometimes at his apartment. Once he came to my house in Richmond and saw his old room. He stood in the doorway staring at posters on the walls and books on shelves. It feels like a museum, he said quietly, like I'm looking at artifacts from someone else's life. I told him about his mother, how she had remarried, how she had moved on. He said he was not ready to meet her yet. Maybe never. Some wounds were too deep, I understood. I contacted the cemetery and had the grave examined. The body buried there was tested. It belonged to a 19-year-old named Ethan Brooks, a runaway with no family, no one looking for him. He died in my son's place and had been buried under my son's name. I had his remains moved to a proper grave with his real name on the stone. The calls stopped after the DNA test came back. Benjamin's number never rang again. Whatever had caused it, whatever impossible thing had reached across 18 years to bring us together, was finished. I had brought him home, not the way I had imagined, not as the boy I lost, but as the man he had become. We would never get back the time we lost. We would never have those 18 years, but we had now. We had tomorrow. We had a second chance that should not have existed. I buried my son 18 years ago. I mourned him. I visited his grave. I thought he was gone forever. Then he called me from beyond death and said he was just lost. And I brought him home. That is the end of the story, the true story of how I lost my son and found him again after 18 years. Dennis Carter spent nearly 2 decades carrying a grief so heavy it shaped every breath he took. He kept a dead phone line alive, kept a bedroom frozen in time, kept showing up at a grave that held the wrong body. His love never wavered, even when the world told him to move on, and when an impossible call came from the dark, he followed it without hesitation, driving through the night because a father will always answer when his child says, "Dad, I am lost." Benjamin, or Matthew, lived a whole life built on nothing but fragments. He woke up as a stranger to himself and still managed to work, to pay bills, to keep going. Yet deep inside, something kept whispering that he did not belong. That quiet voice finally broke through and reached the one person who never stopped listening. This story is about mistakes that can steal years, about grief that refuses to die, and about love that somehow crosses every boundary, even the one between life and death. It reminds us that time is fragile, that the people we love can be closer than we think, and that second chances, however late, are still miracles. Cherish the ones you have today. Call them, hug them, tell them everything you never say, because tomorrow is not promised, and some phone lines only ring once. If this story moved you, if it made you think of someone you love, please hit the like button, leave a comment, tell me where you are watching from, and subscribe to the channel so we can share more stories that touch the heart. Thank you for listening. See you in the next one.